Welcome back, men. This is week two. We are going to look at understanding our partner. So, seeing her world more clearly, looking at her emotional, her mental, her hormonal differences that change everything for us. Now, if week one was about understanding the collapse of connection between us, week two is about learning how to see her world and her perspective more acutely and to really lean into how we can be there for her, understand her more so that we can adjust our behaviors accordingly and be an integral man that shows up. And most men assume that their partner thinks and feels and processes stress and discomfort and conflict the same way they do. And that assumption really destroys that connection. So the collapse of connection that we spoke about last week, a lot of it can come from our misinterpretation or a misunderstanding of where our partner is at and how to work with them and their nervous system. So if you want her to feel safe and seen and understood, you've got to understand her wiring. You've got to understand where she's coming from and where she's operating from. Now, from my own perspective, a moment where I thought my partner was maybe overreacting, but later I realized it was like a hormonal cycle shift, or sometimes when it's been like an attachment process, where she has responded from an avoidant place, which is part of her wiring, and I didn't catch it, and it caused us to be seeing the same situation, the same conflict, same dilemma from totally different perspectives. And everything changed when I started to understand and started to look at things from a less judgmental perspective. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that your partner is completely unique. They are wonderful. They're the only time that they've ever happened in this entire universe, and they're the only time they'll ever happen as long as the universe is here. So, knowing that they have so much wisdom and gifts and unique ability and uniqueness about them, so that we can approach them with real compassion. So, when something's happening, I want us to, before we get into this lecture, just know that everything comes from a place of compassion. Like, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all understand things differently. We've all had different circumstances that have happened to us that led us to view things in different ways, and our psychology is made up of all these different experiences that happen throughout our lives, and we can only respond to the environment that's in front of us based on what we already know. So your partner is just doing that. They're not often blaming you from a place of pure judgment. Judgment is their work. Judgment is our work. If I judge somebody, it's my work. Oftentimes I'm judging somebody based on somebody else that's standing behind them that's done something to me, or to somebody else. And sometimes I'm judging myself. Like, I've done that before. I've done this, and my brain, my ego, and the part of me that's trying to self-preserve or protect myself will point out other people's flaws instead of looking just at my own. And I kind of abandon critical thinking. So when somebody does something, i.e. your partner does something, just remember, yeah, I could do that too. Like, I could see myself doing that, or I've done that before, or somebody else has done it, and actually, they're just responding to the environment in front of them. So everything about her is reflecting back what is in her environment. And sometimes we can be part of that environment. A lot of the time, we can actually um, influence that environment quite heavily. And that is where we can take our own responsibility. This entire course is about what we can do to improve the connection that we have with our partner. It's not so much looking at them and saying they're the problem. We are looking at what we can do. Now, this is an important module because it gives us more understanding of how we can adjust our behavior based on what we know about our partner. And the first thing, the most important thing to start with, is their biological rhythms. Now, me as a man, my hormones fluctuate in 24-hour cycles. So my testosterone is higher in the morning and steadier throughout the day, and then my energy and my libido and my mood might actually dip towards the evening, and I kind of reset that cycle every single day. So how you operate, how you do things, and maybe how you create situations for connection, conversation, or conflict, healthy conflict. Perhaps it's not best to do that in the evening. Perhaps it's not best to put difficult decisions late in the day. I often say don't make a hard decision after 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. is the cutoff for hard decisions, because our testosterone will be dipping. We won't be able to think as clearly as we were during the kind of mid-morning to early afternoon. We won't be as vital and energized. We will have less critical thinking because our brain and our body and everything is like really starting to wind down and shut down for rest. It prioritizes rest so that we can genetically and biologically and historically go for the hunt. We can actually get full rest so that we can show up and provide. That's what our brain and our bodies are doing. So do not prioritize any difficult decisions or put any difficult decisions or conflicts or conversations after 8 p.m. at night. And I know that's difficult, but we can create time for these things during the day, because a woman's estrogen and progesterone cycles, they go in 28-day cycles. And the cycles and ups and downs in the daily are fluctuating. Sometimes they can have multiple days of feeling amazing, and it just goes from morning till night. They feel amazing, and then they have this period of their cycle where they start to shift from season to season, and they start to respond differently. Their hormones are changing, so their estrogen and progesterone cycle resets every 28 days. So their mood, their energy, their desire, and their sensitivity to things that are going on around them shift across that month. And it's the sensitivity that we need to be really, really careful of, because a lot of the times our connection can start to falter because we're not understanding how sensitive they are in these different moments. So we don't adjust the intensity that we're bringing to them around topics, because maybe we might have this intensity during the day and we're like, oh, I want to bring you this idea, I want to bring you this thing, and I want to talk to you about it. But they are feeling hypersensitive. They might not have explained it. They might not have communicated it. They might feel more insular and withdrawn, and they might even be feeling like unworthy or depressed, or having a low self-worth because of their hormones communicating messages to their brain, and their brain is interpreting it as like low energy, like feeling rubbish about themselves. And if we bring something to them at that point, we are never going to get a good response. And it's being really, really acutely aware to how much intensity you bring compared to what amount of sensitivity they are experiencing. So your intensity has to match their level of sensitivity. So if they have low sensitivity, so they're not feeling sensitive, you can bring more intensity. And it's our responsibility as men to pick up on that, to have conversations and learn, not ask questions like, how are you feeling today? 1 out of 10. It's to gauge it through dialogue and discourse and really try to understand her, instead of just asking for linear or binary answers. Yes, no. Are you feeling good today? No. Okay, great. Right, that's the day that it happens. It's up to us to remove the decision fatigue or the mental load of them answering our questions, and just learn, really pay attention to them and learn when their sensitivity is higher and lower, and when we can start to bring different levels of intensity of what we want to work through in our relationship. And this is only a 28-day cycle, and it's obviously towards the end of the cycle, as they shift into the period where they're going to bleed, that's when things really, really start to shift. And it's important that you realize that you reset every morning, and she resets across the month. So you wake up a new man, she is going through this whole journey. And it's important to realize that she is learning, because the feminine is about chaos and creation and wisdom and emotion. Chaos, creation, wisdom, and emotion. That's what the feminine goes and learns. And if we revere it, if we look after it, if we protect it, if we are sensitive to it and aware of it, we can actually harvest quite a lot of wisdom from that. And it's beautiful. The connection we can have if we just let the feminine be feminine is amazing. Okay, so if you can not get in her way as she goes on this journey, fully supporting her. And the way we do that is by us being in our masculine, allowing them to be in their feminine, but us being in our masculine, and allowing them to experience chaos, emotion, creation, and being able to go through those emotional periods. One of the things that I talk about a lot is the path, and it'll come up again in a later module. But the path is essentially when we're walking the path of love and relationship with our partner, the feminine has the prerogative to have an emotional experience. And when they have an emotional experience, they tend to, and that's not just her, it can be you too, but the feminine energy walks off the path to have an emotional experience. But when the feminine, it's like a journey, on a journey. And when it's off the path, it can't see the path anymore. It's off having this emotional experience and learning wisdom to bring back to the path. What tends to happen is when the feminine energy, and oftentimes the female in the relationship, goes off the path, the masculine energy, if un um, if immature or dysregulated or um, any one of those things, it will judge the emotional experience. Uninitiated, that's the word I was looking for. So if it's uninitiated, it will judge the experience of the feminine going off as a problem. Either it becomes inflated or deflated. Inflated is it gets angry at the emotion and judges it and tries to minimize it and demean it and change it and bring her back to the path because she needs to be on the path, which then brings her back into her masculine because we're taking her out of her feminine. And sometimes it gets deflated and it becomes insecure and needy or emotionally dysregulated and is looking for pity or validation or seeking self-worth and value and doesn't want to be the fault or the cause of the emotional experience. So it kind of looks like, oh, why are you always so moody, or why are you doing this, in the inflated state. And in the deflated state, it's, it's not my fault. Why are you, what are you saying about me? Like, this is not, maybe it is, maybe I'm the problem. And these two states pull her out of her feminine, because they are emotional experiences of themselves. So essentially, you pull them back to the path, and you go off for a wander off the path, and then she has to be in her masculine and wait for you to come back. And when she does, when you do come back, when she welcomes you back to the path, it will most likely be met with resentment because she wasn't allowed to do the thing that's naturally in her spirit and biology and genetics to explore, and she had to divert and bring her masculine online, and that disrupts her rhythm and her cycle. It disrupts her hormonally, emotionally, mentally, physically, and we can build this resentment. So it's realizing when she is at these different stages within her cycle where she has these heightened emotions and heightened sensitivity, maybe a need for stability, or reassurance. So the kind of follicular phase in the kind of first 2 weeks of a woman's cycle, they have higher energy, more creativity, openness, higher libido and sex drive, as they're kind of ovulating. And then in the luteal phase, days 15 to 28, you can experience a number of different things from low energy to heightened sensitivity, need for stability and reassurance and comfort and support, and just full reign to explore her full feminine emotions. So days 1 to 14, you're probably looking at higher tolerance for your intensity. Days 15 to 28, you're probably looking at lower tolerance for your intensity. So it's like those 2 weeks in the beginning are prime time for trying to engage in things that can build the relationship and build that connection back up. And it's different for women going through menopause. So essentially, she's not inconsistent, she's cyclical. And I want you to write that down. She is not inconsistent, she is cyclical. And it's up to us to map that cycle and understand it fully, because then we will start to understand how our partner is feeling day to day, which gives access to, if you think the way she is presenting in the world due to the part of her cycle, is a gateway for what's inside. So what comes out? If she's shut down, you won't see anything. If she's more open, you'll see more of it. And then we get to learn more about these people if we are attuned to where she's at in her cycle. So one of those things inside would potentially be her attachment style. So in week 1, we showed your partner's patterns and your patterns. In week 1, we showed you your patterns and all the patterns that might show up in the collapse of connection. And week 2, this is about hers. We're looking at her patterns in relationship. And quick recap of attachment styles. There's anxious, avoidant, fearful, avoidant, and secure. So just 4 different styles. Anxious is somebody who pursues and protests for closeness. Like they might criticize, they might condemn, they might try and manipulate and try to basically protest for closeness, try and create closeness through maybe guilt tripping or manipulation of situations and different things. That would be a person who is anxious avoidant. Anxious attached. Avoidant attached is somebody who withdraws at the sight of connection or the feeling of connection. They value space, and it can look cold. It can feel cold. It can feel like they don't love you. So if they're more avoidant, it can feel like, oh, what have I done wrong? Which typically triggers, anxious and avoidant tend to find each other quite regularly. I see it a lot. Somebody who is craving love and affection and connection and closeness will often partner with an avoidant who actually just wants their own space. Very rarely do you find 2 avoidants together. The kind of pairing of anxious and avoidant almost contradict, but also complement each other in some ways. So the anxious attached will constantly try and get, but the more they try, the more they drive avoidant away, the more they're pushing that person away, because that person really does not like this, especially if they're at a different part of their cycle. The last 15, 28 days of their cycle, they're going to withdraw, they're going to pull back, they value their space, they want to just cocoon and hibernate for the last part of their cycle. So it can feel cold, it can feel like they don't love you, it can feel like they don't want to be around you, or they don't like you. And that's not true. It's just a certain set of experiences that they've grown up with around how love was given to them when they were a child or an adolescent, and how they've built up safety mechanisms and protective structures in their brain to keep them safe when love is on the table, when a connection is available. So when connection is available, an anxious person would be somebody who maybe had a lot of love withdrawal in childhood. So somebody who was punished heavily, somebody who had a lot of love withdrawal, somebody who was made to feel not good enough. So they're constantly seeking validation and security through connection. They're trying to create this connection so that they feel safe. The avoidant is the opposite. Somebody who maybe got a lot of love, but it was maybe smothering and too much. Maybe had a helicopter parent or an overbearing parent. Sometimes for women, it's like a devouring mother energy that they had growing up, and then they don't want love. They actually create this sense of independence in themselves, and they don't need love and connection in order to feel safe in themselves. They just want to retreat and find that space, because actually even if it's counterintuitive, even if they actually don't feel good in themselves and they feel like worthless or low self-worth, they will feel safer dealing with that alone than they will in connection with somebody else. Now, the next one is fearful avoidant. It's like or sometimes it's called disorganized attachment. This is like a push-pull. It's really unpredictable. It's often trauma-based. It's something, if somebody's experienced any forms of sexual abuse or physical abuse growing up, particularly around connection or their performance for either parents, peers, or role models. If they tried to do something, tried to get connection, and it was rejected, ridiculed, or punished, they will develop some kind of trauma response to that, depending on the severity of the experience. And they will have this kind of push-pull where they just don't know. Essentially, they just don't know what they want, and it can be really unpredictable. It can be really difficult to judge. It can be really difficult to work with as a partner, because fearful avoidant might test. It might push somebody, just pull somebody close to you in for a connection because that's what they think they want. But when it gets too close, their avoidant is triggered, and they push you away. So it can feel really difficult to manage. It can feel really difficult to understand, and it can create some feelings of anger and frustration and disrespect, or that you're not being appreciated, because they're pulling me in at one moment and then they're pushing me away the next. One of the things that is really, really important for this is to name it, to go in and provide safety, to actually imagine who am I speaking to right now. So this, if it's avoidant or anxious or fearful avoidant or disorganized, Like, what little girl inside of this person am I communicating with right now? When they're behaving in these ways, like, who am I actually seeing? Like, let's get past the person that's in front of me and actually, when are you responding from? Like, what is it that your soul needs right now? What is it that the little girl that's acting out that I can see clearly is just trying to assert assert themselves and gain favor or dominance or control, or in some cases, love and affection through manipulation tactics? What is that little girl actually needing? What do they need truly? And we can give them that. We can speak to that. And we don't have to name it. We don't have to say like, "Hey, I'm speaking to your anxious little girl or your avoidant little girl." We can just say, "I love you, even when things are difficult," or "I hear you. Is there anything else?" Or "I can see that you're responding in this way, and I want you to know that it's okay. Like, I know what you need, and I'm here to give it to you." Or you can just say, "Hey, it's not your fault." And just repeat that statement, or say, "I love you. I love you no matter what. I'm here for you. I'm going to give you some space, and I love you no matter what." If you communicate those words enough, sometimes it takes four attempts. Sometimes if you say things four times, it penetrates the top layer of somebody's subconscious. So you can actually, the rational mind might hear it and go, "Yeah, whatever, shut up." Like, they might dismiss what you're saying. But if you say it four times to them, they might not register it in the moment. They might not respond right now, but their subconscious will hear it. If you just say it sincerely enough and repeat the exact same thing without changing it, so that they get to hear it the same time, the same way four times, their subconscious will register that you are telling the truth and that you're repeating yourself and that you're here, they're safe, or we love you. Or sometimes it's a boundary, right? Sometimes it's like, this isn't okay for me, and I'm just going to take some space. And it's really, really important that we try and see past the person in front of us and see the attachment styles that are formed from early life experiences. Now, the other one is secure. And, I don't meet many secure people, I'll be honest with you. This is somebody who's balanced, who can take ownership, who can move through conflict with shameless ownership without applying shame to themselves, and they can repair conflict really, really quickly, or repair damage and disruption or rupture really, really quickly. That is somebody who's secure, who doesn't judge um, themselves or the other person. They just judge the situation and they want to resolve it quickly, and they feel happy in connection regardless of the levels of conflict that are happening. That is somebody who is in a secure, attached state. Now, when your partner criticizes you, if this is happening regularly, when she criticizes you, it may be that her anxious side is reaching for reassurance. So it may be that she just needs you to make her feel safe. She just needs to be reassured. And when she goes quiet, it might be her avoidance side just protecting herself. So just remember that. Criticism might just need reassurance. Avoidance might just be her feeling unsafe and needing to protect herself. So the avoidance needs protection. And understanding this is the first step to leading this connection in your relationship. Um, let's do like a little role play just now. So like an anxious partner might say, or for an anxious partner, you might say, listen, I get that you're feeling disconnected right now. Let's take 10 minutes just for us tonight. Let's put aside 10 minutes at the end of the day, and we're just going to connect. I just want to listen to you. I want you to hear me. Let's just like really spend that time. Let's make intentional time to connect later on. And that's an anxious partner. So somebody who's like needing your connection, needing your space, needing your love, needing your attention. An avoidant partner, you might say to them, I see that you need space right now. I see that you are needing to be alone right now, and I'll give it and be here when you're ready. I'll be here when you come back. Like, if you just need to take space, go for it, and I'll be here when you get back. Now, these things are really, really important to kind of work through and start to understand which attachment style does my partner most fall into, and what is her little girl or the soul of her actually craving for. Because once we understand that, we can really start to understand her and the different parts of her personality, and the lenses that she will see and behave through in into the world. And there are five kind of big personality markers, and they are agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, openness, and neuroticism. So these are the kind of five main personality markers. And this comes from Jordan Peterson's Understand Myself test that you can do. And I would encourage everybody to do it. And you can do it together as a partner, as a couple, and it gives you back a couple score. So agreeableness, when somebody's high in agreeableness, they tend to avoid conflict and, say it's fine. And, you know, deep down they actually resent the person. And when you're low in agreeableness, you can be really blunt and direct. And one of the beautiful things about this is when you identify where somebody is in agreeableness, you can adjust your argument. Because if you feel they're high in agreeableness and they tend to avoid conflict, you can be gentle with how you're approaching this, because you want to get through the conflict. We have to have conflict to get clarity and understanding, and then commitments and accountabilities and the results that we want. We have to get that. So the conflict is important, and if they avoid it because they're high in agreeableness, we have to change how conflict looks in our relationship. And if they're low in agreeableness and they're blunt and direct, you have to put in boundaries about how conflict goes and what kind of language you're willing to tolerate within the conflicts. Now, conscientiousness is when it's at its highest point, it likes order and plans and reliability, and things become really stressed if it's messy or you're sloppy, or things are disorganized. That's conscientiousness loves order and regularity. Low conscientiousness is like really flippant, and some people will see it as lazy or disorganized or just less structured, super easygoing. And when we have those, again, when we understand where somebody's conscientiousness is at, whether they like order or whether they are less structured, again, we can adjust and we can make agreements on, okay, whose job's what. Like, if you're good at this, that's your job. I'll be good at this. If I'm bad at this, okay, it's not my job because I just can't do it. It's not something I'm good at. Would you be willing to do that? And I'll do this. And it's like, I hate to do it, but blue jobs, pink jobs, like assigning roles and jobs within the household that help you guys live in a more harmonious way. And conscientiousness is the key for that. Like, where is your orderliness? How stressed do you get when things are messy? And let's work together to create harmony. The opposite of chaos, I don't believe, is order. I believe it's harmony. Like, how does harmony show up in your home? And the other one is extroversion. So the next one is extroversion. So when you have a high level of extroversion, you need social time. You need novelty. You need new things. You just need people to talk to, things to do, exciting things. You need to be able to actually see your partner in a new way. So if your partner is high in extroversion and you've been doing the same stuff over and over again, so maybe you're high in conscientiousness and she's high in extroversion, she might think you're boring. She might think that she's just had enough. So you're super orderly, you're reliable, there's no spontaneity. It's actually really, really boring for somebody who's high in extroversion. So checking out where they are in their extroversion scale will allow you to see how they view you. And that allows you to, you're not editing yourself, you're not adjusting yourself to be inauthentic, but perhaps there's an invitation there to be more spontaneous, to do more interesting things, and allow your partner to see you in a new light. Novelty is a huge thing in relationships, because we don't fall out of love because we hate each other. We fall out of love because we get bored with each other. And when your partner gets to see you in a new light and become curious about you again, that's when that kind of extroverted nature, particularly in the feminine energy, is so satiated, because you're new now, and that's wonderful. It's really exciting. You're doing something totally different, and it's really interesting. Doesn't mean that you have to go away and do something isolated by yourself, but if you're able to show up in a way doing something that is new for you and her and the family, there will be a response there, whether it's subconscious or conscious, or on the surface or deep down. There will be a response to your change and her getting to see you in a new way. Now, if extroversion is low, it craves like really quiet spaces and recharge. And sometimes we get these two polar opposites. We're polarized, and we're one person in the relationship is extrovert and the other person is introverted. And sadly, we have to find balance in this, because this will drive us into two different zones. Somebody who's sitting reading a book, another person like out having a great time. Like, there's not going to be much opportunity for connection there if you like really lean into all of your introversion, if you have it, and she leans into all of her extroversion, or vice versa. So it's about finding a bridge between the two, and activities and processes that you can do, whether it's structured conversation, question cards, a game night like board games, or like date nights, like creating opportunities for extroversion and introversion to integrate together is super, super important, because that is something that maybe you won't see, maybe you won't understand, maybe you won't feel in the moment, but putting this frame on it might actually help you see, oh yeah, she is definitely that, and I'm not giving that part of her what it needs. And the next one is openness. Let's move it on. So when you're high in openness, you're creative, you've got lots of ideas, you love novelty again. So openness and extroversion go hand in hand. And you're more open. So openness is like open to new experiences. That's what it means. Like I'm open to new experiences. I'm open to learning. I'm open to ideas. I'm open to be a beginner in something again. I don't need to be an expert in things. I'm open to all of these new things. If you're high in openness, you're open to new experiences. If you're low in openness, you like routine, comfort, familiarity. That's the introvert coming out again, and the kind of low conscientiousness. So making sure that, again, somebody's desire for novelty and connection and newness might come from their openness, and that's a conversation you can have. Connection doesn't always have to be conversation. It doesn't have to be words. So real connection within these attachment styles and personality traits doesn't have to be in conversation. It can be through creativity. It could be through music. You could both learn how to play a musical instrument at the same time. You could both practice a skill, or both take on a new skill together, and see how you both get on, and it becomes a journey that you go on together. That is high openness, because you're going to be beginners together. You're going to have some novelty. It's going to test your edges and your abilities. It's going to massage your ego a little bit, and give you an opportunity to drop that, and embrace the joy of being incompetent in something, and not let it floor you, or dip you into shame or self-loathing. To enjoy that, conscious incompetence is a good stage to be at, because it means that you've got something to learn, and approaching things from that perspective can be really attractive within a relationship. And it leads into the last one, neuroticism. The last personality trait is neuroticism. So when you're highly neurotic, you're more reactive to stress and uncertainty. You're more agitated. You're more aggressive in your stances. You're potentially more critical, not critical thinking, but just critical. So high neuroticism is like somebody who's on edge all the time, and low neuroticism is more emotionally stable, just being able to actually relax and understand, and listen to somebody else's viewpoint without walking off the emotional path. You can listen and stay in conflict and not be floored by it. So what I want to leave you with on this one is, stop expecting her to act like you, and start to learn her temperament and work with it. So whether she is high or low in agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, openness, or neuroticism, learn it and actually apply strategies. If your relationship is collapsing or has gone through the collapse, ask yourself, have I actually assessed this? Have I analyzed this? And have I applied any strategies? This is what we're doing here. We're trying to understand here so that we can apply some strategic thinking to how we're going to rebuild this connection. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you've not tried anything like these kinds of strategies, or thinking about this, it's time to try them. Pick these up, learn about your partner in all these different ways, and then apply some ideas and strategies and behaviors that, without becoming completely authentic, pull you out of your comfort zone that you've maybe drifted into, and actually start to engage with her in a way that she needs it. And this, moves us on to our next part of love languages, because love languages are so important, because our partner needs to receive love in a way that they understand it. It's like speaking a foreign language. If you get somebody who doesn't speak French, speaking to somebody who speaks French, or vice versa, like French and German, just different languages, they don't understand each other. If I'm trying to communicate to a German person who doesn't speak French in French, they will not know what the hell I'm talking about. And the same the other way. So it's the same as in love languages. If I'm trying to communicate with you, because we tend to communicate in love language too, in our preferred one. So the love languages there's 5 of them, and if you don't know them, this is really, really powerful, and it's so simple. It is well documented. It's a very old system, and really, really beautiful. They are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. So those are them: words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. If my preferred love language that I like to receive is the one that I communicate with, and it's not my partner's preferred love language to receive, then we're speaking a different language. So again, I have to learn what hers is, and then learn that language, because otherwise we can't talk. And at some point, somebody's going to have to be the one that starts learning the other person's language. And it could be you right now. So instead of waiting for her to learn your love language and communicate in the ways that you need, how about you start doing it the other way? And if you haven't done it, if you have been doing it and it's not working, maybe there's a conversation there about, is it actually her love language? Or does she truly have a different one that she's not able to own right now, or yet up to this point? Can she own a different love language that is really and truthfully the one that she really wants? Ask her, and ask her 4 times. Are you sure? Because I'm doing that and it's not working. So what is it? What is it you need? What is it you want? What is your love language? Do you like me giving you words of affirmation, saying you're amazing, and saying I love you, and that you're beautiful, and that like everything about your body as it's created and birthed children and changed over the years, like just makes me like burst with love and affection and sexual attraction? Or I just love how amazing creative person you are. Like, just like, oh, the way that you did that and the way you did that, or like your idea was like so much better than mine in solving this problem. I'm really grateful that you have the brain that can think of that. Words of affirmation might be it. Acts of service, showing up every day, doing the things, being consistent, reliable, being a man of your word. Receiving gifts doesn't have to be extravagant. When was the last time you bought flowers for your partner? If it's been a while, after this call, after this lecture, go and buy flowers. Go and buy them a small bouquet of flowers, £10. I'm sure you can find £10 somewhere, and buy them a bouquet of flowers and a little card, and just write in the card, thank you. Thank you for being wonderful. Thank you for being you. I really appreciate our relationship. And just give them to them with no expectation. Just give them and say thank you. And they'll say, what was this for? Just say, just for being you. I just love you. And then just walk away and go and do something cool. So receiving gifts can sometimes be just subtle and beautiful and powerful. So next one's quality time. Like I said earlier about connection, quality time doesn't have to be conversation, doesn't have to be sitting down face to face talking about stuff. It can be question cards, can be roller disco, could be like anything fun and exciting or interesting that's quality time. Or it could just be musical connection, could be literary connection. It could be that you pick a book and you each read a chapter to each other every night. You do one chapter, she does another, or vice versa. You do one chapter tonight, she does a chapter tomorrow night. Reading to each other is really beautiful. So creating opportunities for quality time is a lovely way to start to engage with someone, if that's their love language. And most women, not all, that is one of their primary love languages. We each tend to gravitate towards 2. The last one is physical touch, which most men lead with. Most men are more tactile and physical touch led in their love language, and they crave it. We need it. We need physical affection and sex, and a lot of men agree that is a state that they feel. The difficult part is when they can't control it. when it controls them and they can't control it, that's when it becomes difficult. Physical touch is great, sex is great, having sex, wanting to have sex, all very healthy. When it's the only thing you think about and you adjust your behaviors in order to get it, it is controlling you. You are not controlling it. So if you're physical touch, communicate that, and then communicate in their love language so that you are communicating with them and they might reciprocate. They might talk back in your love language. So there might be a dialogue there if you're the one that opens the conversation. And sometimes in relationships, it can feel like it's one way, but there are so many nuances to this. Like, I'm doing the love language thing and it's not coming back. Yes, but have you addressed the personality traits? Have you addressed all these other areas? Have you looked at agreeableness, conscientiousness, and those things? Have you looked at her anxious, avoidant attachment styles? Have you mapped out where she is in her cycle right now? And then have you applied the love language that you know is her primary one? And it might change in her cycle. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of understanding your partner, but that's what connection is. Connection is nuance and flexibility and movement throughout this 28-day cycle for us to observe it all and try and learn it. Sometimes looks like or feels like a full-time job, but this is the love of your life. What better pastime could you have than learning everything about them so that you can have a better relationship with them? And men often, give their love language, like they give love in their language but not in hers. They just miss hers completely. So just make sure that that's not happening. Have some dialogue, really work through it, have some conversations about this, and really start to identify what hers are. And if you don't know yours, identify yours so that you can ask for it and ask for what you need, and then even notice what she's asking for, what she's asking for, what she needs. And noticing what she complains about, what she is critical about, what she doesn't enjoy. Notice what she gives to you. And, because like I said, she often gives her own love language. So whatever she's doing to you is probably what she wants you to do to her. And you might not have thought of that. It took me a very long time to realize that when I went through these love languages things about how we tend to communicate the one that is ours, but it's often not the one that our partner has. So whatever she's doing to you is probably acts of service or, words of affirmation. That's probably hers. So typically most women are words of affirmation and quality time, or acts of service and quality time. So if she's given one of those again and again and again, figure out which one it is, and that's probably hers, and then you start doing that back. So if you're speaking the wrong language, she won't feel loved, no matter what you do or how hard you try. So make sure you figure that one out. And some of the things that might influence her love language, which I really like from the Jungian perspective in Jungian psychology, is the anima and the animus. So like the base level instincts of men, women, masculine, feminine. We all have, men, us as men, we have an inner anima. So like this feminine trait, intuition, nurturing, emotional expression. And women have an inner animus. So they present as feminine, but they have an inner animus, an inner masculine. We have a presentation of masculine, but we have an inner anima, an inner feminine. So we are predominant in one, but we have an inner element of the other. Now, women have in their inner animus is their masculine traits, their assertiveness, their logic, their drive, their confidence, all of these things, their ability to complete tasks. That is their animus. And in relationships, we project these. Men expect women to carry their anima, their emotional load. I always talk about it as like emotional boulders. Women already have their own, emotional rocks, and men tend to expect women to carry theirs too. Like anytime they're experiencing an emotion, they'll say, "Can you carry these rocks?" And they'll hand them to them, thinking that is like the prerogative or the nature of the feminine to hand that because they present as feminine. But they also have this inner animus that is resentful and rejecting of this burden to hold their partner's emotional rocks. Now, we have to be able to listen, we have to be able to communicate, but I think what has been missed in kind of modern day relating is the idea of ownership. Being able to bring your emotions to your female partner as men without giving it to them, without burdening, without saying, "Can you hold these? Like, can you help me fix it? Give me an idea. Do this, do that." You don't hand your emotional load over because they are emotion. They're all emotion. And when you give yours over, they're just overrun with it and it's too much. They can't hold theirs and yours. So it's about having conversations and doing a bit of work beforehand. If you have an emotional moment or a conflict in your life or something that goes wrong, something that happened that really rocks you, don't just go to her and say, I need you. I need your help. This is too difficult. It's too hard. Try and either sit with yourself and really work through it. And if you need support, reach out to a male friend who can support you with it and then process it together before you then go and express it to the feminine in your life, your female partner, if that is the way the relationship is set up. Make sure that you're not handing your emotional rocks over because it can become burdensome and tiresome. And the way I've explained it before is like you only get so many tokens, and then they're going to start asking you to take your boulders back. And it can be a bit of a shock. It can feel rejecting. It can feel overwhelming because I'm overwhelmed and I need you to hold this or help me with this. But in actual fact, that's what they need from us. They need us to be stable, secure, supportive, solid, understanding of what's going on, being able to create solutions and provides um, systems and structure. That's what the masculine does. And when we don't do that, if we are abandoning that for emotional regulation from them, we're trying to co-regulate and steal some of their emotional regulation, they feel dysregulated as a result of it. And on the flip side, women expect men to fully embody their animus as a result of this. They are expecting you to embody the animus, which is like direction and decisiveness. So they are expecting you to present this masculine, but embody the animus and have this creativity and decisiveness and exploration. So it's up to us to be able to do that in ourselves, to be able to go away and work through our emotional things and come back with a plan. You know, one of the lies that Hollywood told us, there was even a movie called What Women Want, which, you know, a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s just screamed for men to be more vulnerable with their emotions and wear their heart on their sleeve. And it was a fallacy that we all fell for because women don't want you to be vulnerable with them. They want you to be vulnerable, but just not with them. They want you to understand your emotions, your feelings, being able to regulate and understand and process them in a safe and healthy way, but then come back in your masculine rather than handing your emotional rocks to them. And that is what got conflated and missed in all of these movies and all of this narrative. And a lot of us fell for it, me included. And this level of vulnerability doesn't create connection. It creates dependence. So having some vulnerability in sharing what's going on for you, but with an understanding that you know what you need to do. And you're not asking her or demanding her, depending on her to fix it. You can do it. And I'm just sharing this experience with you. That is really, really healthy. Now, the work is to integrate your anima, your emotional intelligence, and your animus, the decisive leadership and focus going forwards, so that you don't dump either role onto your partner. So part of Gottman's research, so the Gottman Institute that we spoke about in week one, has shown that strong couples, really strong couples, know each other's inner world in great detail. And that is what we've gone through today. All these different elements create what I call the love map. So the love map is you understanding all of these different elements of your partner so that you can pinpoint different parts of who she is, what builds her up. This is the love map that you're going to create over the next week now. I want you to take a real good time focusing on all these different elements of her psyche, her behavior, her cycle, her personality, her attachment styles. All of these things are really, really important to create this love map because strong couples know each other's inner world in great detail. And some of the questions that you can use to start to build this is, really figuring out and finding out what is stressing your partner out most right now. So what is stressing you most right now? Really kind of getting into what are the triggers, what is putting her into a state of dysregulation, and following that down to try and find breadcrumbs on this love map to find clues as to where she sits on all these different things. Um, and maybe asking other things like, who are the people you feel most connected to? Like, where do you feel most safe? Where do you feel most comfortable? What makes you feel most lit up? What's one dream that you have for your life, or even what's one dream you've had lately? What's one actual dream you've had lately? Tell me about your dreams. Like, creating these conversations that tell you more about them, like deep inside, really being inquisitive and curious, because curiosity is leadership. And this is how you update the map so that she feels really seen and heard, by you being curious. Get really curious so you can create your own love map and really fully understand her, because that is you leading the relationship. So, part of the emotional reset system this week is going to include the pausing and regulating. So, calming yourself before going into conversations and communicating or conflict to find out these things, not being sent off the path. Because when you're on the path, all you're doing in the idea of, understanding your partner's inner world, when they go on their 28-day cycle and they go on an emotional experience, they're off the path in the void. They can't see the path, but they can hear it. And you've just got to talk out into the void, communicate very calmly, collectively, and connectively, and guide them back to the path so they can share the wisdom that you need in order to write your own love map. So when they're having an emotional experience, don't get angry and inflate and wander off the path yourself. Don't deflate and get insecure and sad and seek pity in order to gain connection. Both of those, avoidant and anxious, you can see them in different ways. Don't respond to her emotions like that. Stay in the motion, stay in the emotion, stay in the conflict, learn from it. What is the information that she's bringing back to you when she's finished that journey off the path? That is what's going to help you really understand and build out this love map. And in those moments, you're not fixing, you're not trying to support her in the way of like creating a solution so that she comes back to the path quicker. It's about holding her on that journey. So you're not convincing her to stop her emotions. You're actually trying to convince her to lean into her emotions so that you can draw out more information, more data that helps you show up for her better. That's really it. So we're going to focus on all of those things to build this love map out, looking at your cycle awareness, love languages, personality types, attachment styles, and that's going to help you really show up for her, because you're going to have such a good understanding. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week for week 3 of The Connected Man. Lots of love.